Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back. It's Monster Day. It's the day we deal with monsters, and we've been working our way through Dungeons and Dragons 5e monsters, and we've kind of progressed over to, I think Wizard of the Coast calls it 2024, but it was released in 2025, so we're dealing with that one instead. It's going to be really interesting how this all turns out because they've done some strange things with Boule. For those who are thinking it's the bullet or the BULETTE. Boule is really just a a joke. It's a joke, okay? It's poking fun at the French. So if you hadn't figured that one out, that's the reason why it's pronounced that way. Anyway, let's rock into this. I'm going to put up a poll. Feel free to take part in that poll if you want to. Feel free to share your ideas, but grab some food, some drink, get comfortable, and we're going to get through this. Now, I got a surprise. We keep going though. Hi, welcome to How to RPG. My name is Fred Wheeler, and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. Not just any tabletop role-playing game, but Dungeons and Dragons 5e. You could say it's 5e, but I think it's more like version 6. I'm going to say it's Dungeons and Dragons 6e 2025. Okay. There are, of course, many things that are very, very similar, because that always tends to be the case with when you're dealing with Dungeons and Dragons. There are a lot of things just never really change. They're very similar, but there's some interesting things going on here. So we have the Boule today, and I'm going to warn you now, we're not doing one stat block, the Boule. We're doing 2 stat blocks, because they made a Boule pup. So we're going to do the pup as well. I'm going to do the pup last. There's some reasons why. I'm going to do the Boule first, do the pup last. And I have that stat block as well ready for you to check out. Before I get started, I have my document. I've done a bit of homework. I've done some number crunching. I've looked at the stat block to determine sort of where the holes are and where I might want to make adjustments. But before I do that, hello Fred Huber. Fred Huber is a patron and a moderator. All of this goes up into Patreon, by the way, people. Let's ask that question. What changes would you, would you make to the Boule? Alright, I think we got it, so I'll put that in. Feel free to share your ideas. I'm going to go through the maths of this monster fairly quickly, and then once I've gone through the maths, get myself comfortable. The hat is off because it's so warm. You can hear all the cicadas and so forth because I cannot close the doors or windows. Yeah, an air conditioner. My house is not really set up to have an air conditioner in this tiny little room. It wouldn't work. It's not practical at all. So I suffer, and the door is open. Okay, so this is the stat block right here. Now you'll notice with the new version, it's got initiative at the top, and this is the new thing, is instead of assuming that people understand that their dexterity modifier is the initiative, they have put it in here, but they've also included the passive version of initiative. We were talking about this last time. I think we were doing the skeleton and the gargoyle, and they've gone with this. I don't think this is a bad idea. There's a couple of other things I would do in terms of changing the stat block and how it's arranged. I would put challenge rating at the top, so I can see the darn thing instead of having to scroll all the way down and find it's in the middle. I want to know what level my monster is near the top, not the bottom. And I would probably put proficiency bonus up here as well. And that is kind of where my head is at in terms of how I would structure this. But so I was going to do this before, and I was tempted to leave it until I'd had a chance to talk to Wally about this, but I think maybe I'll just do it today. Let's just move it. I think it can move. Let's just move it now. I'm not going to get too fancy about whereabouts it's positioned. I just want it there. So challenge rating, initiative challenge rating, and then after its speed, I want to have something like the proficiency bonus. I want that up there as well. Now, did I copy that? I didn't cut. I copied. Oh dear. Let's just remove this here completely. And then that. And then cut, and then we'll put this over here, and paste, and then we're just going to make them line up a little bit. Probably closer to the end of the entry, like over here, I guess. So we use the space a bit more. And something like, roughly something like that. I don't know. Okay, it doesn't feel like it's lining up. Anyway, so that's how I'm going to lay it out. So let's start looking at some of these numbers. So first off, the Boulette has an armor class of 17. Now, one of the problems with having an armor class of 17 on this monster is it's really high for a challenge rating 5 monster. If we have a look at the monster, it is 17, but it's still challenge rating 5. They're not making adjustments to the challenge rating. I think this is a mistake. If we were to go back and say, if I was to open up, say, Shadow Dark, for example, and have a look at the Boulette, because it's not copyright, it still belongs to, is it Tim Cask? I think it's Cask. I know he never signed over the rights to this. So she's made it a challenge rating 8 monster in Shadow Dark. So Shadow Dark, Kelsey thinks it's not challenge rating, it's a monster level 8, right? And then if we look at AD&D, like, usually you can figure out how it's positioned based off how many hit dice it does. The number of hit dice is usually an indicator of the kind of monster level you're dealing with. It's not like they used monster levels. The game was never structured that way initially. This is a new thing. But if we have a look at how many hit dice in AD&D it has, it actually states, where is it? 9. So 9. So not 5, but 9. That's a lot. So why are we looking at trying to make it? Because they want to include the monster more often. And I get it. But this is one of our problems, because if you have a look at what a challenge rating 5 monster should have in terms of armor class, it says 15. And I think it's one of those monsters that should have a high armor class. Now we could push it up to a 16. That wouldn't be the end of the world, right? And then they have the pup, which has got an armor class of 16 itself. So it's all kind of skew off. And I think the easiest way to solve this is to change the challenge rating of the monster, because I think they have underpowered this particular monster when it should have been a much higher level challenge than it currently is. It is not an easy monster. It's the sort of monster that shows up when the dungeon master wants to eat the player's magic items, essentially. That's what you're trying to do. So if that's the case, let's just shift it up to a challenge rating 10. I think that's the solution. And the pup, we can change the challenge rating of the pup to something else so you can use it. But we don't need to include our Boulette for level 2 characters. Like it's just not necessary. It's kind of a bit ridiculous. It's outside their batting area anyway. So let's not do that. Let's just take this nonsense here, get rid of it, and put in the challenge rating that it should be, which is, I think, 10. And that'll change a lot of other things as well, which is fine. There's a lot of maths to be done today. So that is going to be a brackets. Brackets for 10, it's 5,90. And define XP, yeah, okay, so I think that's right. So XP 5, yeah, okay. And there we go. That's our first correction to it. We increased the challenge rating because it needed to be a much higher level. Next process, I want to deal with the armor class. Now the armor class is fine now. We don't have to change it. We can leave it where it is. It should be a highly armored thing, right? We could put in here natural armor if we wanted to, but I don't think it's necessary. I don't know how people feel about that, but I'm not going to bother with it. Our next thing that we're going to do is we don't need to necessarily change any of the ability scores apart from the strength. I feel like the strength is really underwhelming for this monster. I think it should be hitting a lot harder than it is right now. But let's look at its hit points. It's way too low. If we were doing this at a challenge rating 10 now, we need to be hitting really in the range of 206 to 220. That's a lot more than we currently have. And it's considered a large creature, which is fine, but we need to be hitting a lot higher than that. And considering what we're dealing with here, I think we're going to have to almost double this for this to work. So we're going to just do a quick calculation to see if we can get our hit points where we need them to be, because 10, 206 to 220. Now, there's no guarantee that this will work, but let's see if it does. So 220 times 10 equals 200. And then if that's 200, that might be a bit more than we need it to be. That would be 20 times the 5, which is going to be a lot. 20 times the 5 is 100. So that's way too much. If we go down to 18, 16, maybe we aim for 15. Maybe we can aim for 15 and we'll be in the ballpark. We only need to worry about the top end of this, right? So let's figure if we can get the top end sorted out. 15 multiplied by 5 equals 75. Set that. It'll be 75. Okay, so now if we add it all together, we're going to get 15 times 10, 150, plus the 75 is 225. Now 225, is it sitting in the bracket now? It's a little bit high. It's not by much, so we could just trim it down by 1. We can trim that down by 1 and we're probably where we need to be. So 14, oopsie, start again. So 14 times 5 equals 70. Yep. Okay, so that's our addition, and then if we add that all up, we should be right in the pickle barrel at this point. 14 times 10 is that, plus 70. 110, and we are right in the middle. That's good. That's good. So we have figured out what our top end needed to be. 210. Now you're probably wondering, why aren't you making this a solo monster? Because if we're going to assume that Boulette have pups, they may not be alone. I suppose you could, but I think that would be a completely different monster build. So we're going to go with the concept that there are either 2 Boulette or there's 1 Boulette and pups. And that's kind of how our encounter would be built. Does that make sense? So let's do the average. So average of 10 is 5.5 multiplied by 14. Whoopsies, did it again. Keep hitting the 4. 5.5 is the average of 10 multiplied by 14 is... Somehow I didn't cancel it. Do it again. Man. Times 14. It's very, very warm here, so my brain is struggling a little bit, I think. Okay, so that's that. And then we add the 70. 147. And I think that there is our hit point. So you use 147 if you got inexperienced players, and you use 210 if they're really good and highly experienced. Okay, I don't want to change the dexterity on this, so I'm not really too concerned about changing the initiative on it. The problem is this monster is supposed to be a surprise monster, and if it's always going to be succeeding, hopefully, on its stealth by having a stealth score of some kind, but it has a low initiative, it's just not going to work. It doesn't even have a modifier, really. It's just a 0. And I think what we should really do is we should deal with a proficiency bonus and add proficiency to the initiative so that it's got some sort of chance. This is quite common, apparently, in 2025. Monsters get proficiency or expertise in initiative to counteract the fact that the players have too many ways that they can change their initiative score. There's feats and all sorts of class abilities and so forth, which is a really stupid thing to do, but they've done it. So let's make our proficiency bonus at 4 to be in line with the challenge rating 10. and then let's give it a initiative. Will actually give it a chance potentially to do something first. You know what I mean? Because that's really what it should be doing. Okay, all right. So it's going to be moving fairly quickly, even though its dexterity is low, and so that means it's passive. We have 14. Okay, so we got that done. So this is a little bit different now to our Bulette that they've done in 2025. I'm not finished. Let's keep going through the maths. If you think about the progression of players, I would throw a challenge rating 10 monster like the Bulette at level 10 characters. And level 10 characters usually have in their primary ability, they'll have a +3 modifier, a 16 basically, and whatever it is in the score, and a +3. So that's coming out at level 1. And then at level 4, they're going to get a boost, and they're going to go up again. So it's probably going to wind up being a +4 or an 18 when they're level 4. Then they get to level 8, and they're going to do it again. And they're going to have a +5 and a 20 in whatever their primary ability score is. Unless they take feats. If they take feats, tough shit. They shouldn't have taken the feat. Okay, they should have taken them later. That's the trade-off. That's always the trade-off. So, my feeling is that we need to push the strength for our Bulette up to 20. So we're at least in line with the stronger player characters. And we give them a +5. Which means a few of our numbers will change. Okay, as would be expected. Do I need to change any of the other numbers? No, I don't think we need to. I think we'll be fine. Now, you'll notice that this thing has perception as a skill, the new Bulette, and because its wisdom modifier is 0, they've given it the proficiency bonus, so it's proficient in the perception skill, but they've also given it expertise. So we're going to do the same thing, which means that +6 won't be enough because we have a modifier, a proficiency bonus of +4 now. So this means perception is going to be an 8 because we're going to do the same thing. I agree with it. I think if you've got a creature that is designed around stealth, you probably, and being really perceptive and noticing its environment so it can hunt underground, you need to give it decent perception. So let's do that. Stealth. Its stealth isn't great because they never gave it stealth. Apparently it's supposed to burrow underground and so forth and, get the drop on you. But it's got nothing to support that. They didn't use stealth as a skill. And we're going to do the same thing we did with perception. I think I'd have both of these. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to give it proficiency and expertise and make that an 8 because its dex is so low. Okay? And now that is its new skill. Okay, now one of the things I did notice with the Bulette is it doesn't seem to have any damage resistances or damage immunities. It's hard to hit, but if you can get through its armor class, you do damage to it, which is perfect. Okay, so I don't want to add in damage resistance or damage immunities because I don't think it's appropriate. But what I would like to do though is I would like to look at condition immunities because it doesn't have any. And if you look at the lore behind the Bulette, it's not afraid of anything. It will attack forces that are much stronger than itself because it just doesn't care. It's just not afraid of other things. It just hunts and eats, and that is it. It's like the shark, right? It's a land shark. So I think the frightened condition needs to be included here. So I have included it. All right. Based off what I've seen in Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 1st edition and 2nd edition, I honestly think that is the best way to go. It sort of stood out to me as being the most obvious thing that we need to be considering. And I don't know if it was highlighted in 4E. The Bulette may have had the same sort of feature as AD&D. But yeah, if we want to make our monster really perform the way that it's supposed to, then I think that is the way to go. Here we go. So Bulette, and does it have any kind of immunity condition in 4E? Have they carried it over? They've got endurance, athletics, and skills. I'm not too sure that I need to worry about those. Although athletics is a good idea just because of its jumping ability. We could just give it proficiency in that, and that would be fine. It's already got a jumping ability anyway. Burrowing, second wind. Okay, so they haven't included anything here. But considering it's jumping all over the place, let's do the athletics as well. We'll give it a few skills. So 5 plus the 4 comes to a plus 9. And we're not going to give it expertise, we're just going to give it proficiency. Okay, now, what about its dark vision? It's dark vision at 60 feet. I actually think this is fine. Tremor sense at 120 feet, I'm happy with 2. I actually think these are all perfectly adequate for what we need. Our passive perception is no longer 16, it becomes an 18 because we changed our perception. It has no languages, and it doesn't have any, like, traits. There's no real traits here. They did have traits in the past, but apparently they've taken out the traits. I'm leaving the space here for a reason, and I'll come back to this. So here's the next thing. They're focused on the bite. I was trying to decide if we needed to include a claw. And then I decided, no, I feel like its mouth is its tool. It would probably hold its prey down with a claw when it's eating it. Okay, but it probably isn't using its claws to attack. It is probably using its very big mouth. So it's the one that we'll focus on. So what do we do in terms of attack roll and damage? We get 2 bite attacks. Is this appropriate for a challenge rating 10 monster now? In fact, it is. We should be getting 2 attacks, but we should be doing between 37 and 41 points of damage on average for each attack. And we're doing 17. So that isn't good enough. And what's our attack bonus? Should be a 9 plus 9. This is why I changed the strength. So the old one had a 7, but this is based on a challenge rating 5 monster, and we made it a challenge rating 10 monster. So that's now a 9, and we need to change our damage output. Okay. So we're almost going to have to double this, I suspect. So this is going to be like, if I double it, it's close to 30 something, isn't it? Is that right? Yeah. Yeah, so we can probably have to double these dice here. Go 4 12-sided dice plus a 5. Bring our calculator in and make sure that we are doing the amount of damage we require. So this is 6.5 is half of 12 for the average, multiplied by 4 plus 5, 31. 31 may still not be enough. Okay, let's have a look here. 31. No, it's not. So we probably need to add 1 more dice and we solve our problem. For those of you who are thinking this is a lot of damage, no, your players are going to be level 10. They should be taking this much damage. Okay, they'll be fine. Now, so this is 6.5 times 5 plus the 5, 37. And I think we're right smack on the bottom end of where we needed to be. And if we try to fiddle with it too much, we'll probably jump out of that bracket. So we're where we need to be. We're good. This is where we'll stay. Okay, so now we're doing 2 attacks. If they hit, do 37 points of damage each time. That's more like it. Now we're talking. Okay, now we've got to come over to the deadly leap. And I want to break this down a little bit, just because we have to. I think there's possibly a way of simplifying this. I don't know, but we'll see if we can, because I just feel like this is quite a long entry. But anyway, I'm going to go back to chat, see what people have to say. Kind of curious. It'll be a fun exercise. Okay. Hello, Tommy LeBlanc. How are you, Tommy? How are you doing? Nice to have you here. Very nice monster to feature. The true baddie. Yes. No, Tommy, you've got to understand, all monsters are misunderstood. So they should not have an alignment, and because you can have nice boulets who do not want to eat you and do not want to kill you. You know, they're just misunderstood. Did you know that I think Wizards of the Coast is going to make the Boule a playable race in the future, so it won't be in the monster manual anymore. I'm being facetious, people. Okay, we've got here blind sight. By tremor sense and immune to blinded. Oh, I see. You reckon dark vision should be blind sight. Why? Is there something... my general feeling is that tremor sense is doing the job that it needs to be done. But the thing has still got eyes, and it's still got some way of hearing. So my general feeling is that being immune to being blinded does not feel like it would make sense. You can stop it from being able to see in the dark, as dark vision would kick in, but the tremor sense is going to circumvent any blind effect that you put on it anyway, because tremor sense is a totally different way that it operates, right? So I don't know if we need to go through that. I just don't see the rationale for giving it blind sight. I did look at the monster, I did read up on it, but you let me know if I'm wrong. Typer, your design goal here is not clear. If a armor class 17 is too high for challenge rating 5, why not just lower it? Simply because I've made it quite clear, actually. It is not unclear. You just weren't paying attention. I said that it should have a high armor class. The idea of making it a challenge rating 10 version of the Boule is exactly what needs to happen. And I proved it because older versions of the game had it at a much higher rating than 5e does. My goal is not confused, okay? You just don't understand. That's all, which is cool. But yeah, I have explained it as much as I possibly can. If you can't see that, and I did explain why I do not want to lower it, okay? Is the goal to make the challenge rating 10 version of the Boule? No, it is not. It is to make the Boule the rating that it should be. That is the point. That is the point. It should be sitting at challenge rating 9 or 10, somewhere in there, based off of older versions of the game. The Boule is not a low-level monster. It just isn't. It never was supposed to be. So, yeah. Hello, Big Kid. Big Kid is a patron and a moderator. I think when I ran them, they were able to pull players under and make a player do a save to get out. Maybe strength. Okay. I think running multiple is the way to go, like the shark frenzy. Well, the narrative of the Boule is that they tend to wind up being alone, but there are circumstances where you would find the female and its pups. So that's an encounter that you're probably going to have as well. But anyway. The nice Boule is the one you have turned into bacon. Exactly. All right, let's go back since I've seen what everybody has had to say. And here. I couldn't explain my design goals any better than I have. I'm really quite confused by why somebody has not been able to figure out what the heck is going on here. Anyway, you could look. This is at least just to demonstrate you can make adjustments to your own monsters and how to go about doing it. This is one of the reasons why I do this live stream, is to show you can do it yourself. And the reality is you're probably no better or worse than designing your monsters than design team from Wizards of the Coast. Anyway, okay, Deadly Leap. The Boulette, it's like a flamme brûlée. The Boule spends 5 feet of movement to jump to a space within 15 feet that contains one or more large or small creatures. Okay. Is there a way of saying this that essentially tidies up this nonsense? My general feeling is if it can move 40 feet, right? What's the biggest jump that it can do? Right? That's essentially what we're looking at. So we take our 5 feet of movement. So we spend 5 feet of movement to jump to a space within 15 feet. So the idea is that it's not able to jump. Now, if I remember right, the idea is that the Boulette can't jump, use 5 feet of movement, and for every 5 feet of movement, it jumps another 15 feet. That's not sort of how it's supposed to operate. The idea being that it can move, but it can only needs to use a small portion of its movement to move quite a lot by just leaping. I think AD&D did set a restriction on the distance that it could jump. So I think this might be fine the way it is. The Boulette spends 5 feet of movement to jump to a space within 5 feet that contains one or more large or small creatures. Okay, so I think they've done all right there. That's cool. All right, now what else can we... So dexterity saving throw. DC 15 each creature in the Boulette's destination space. Failure. Okay, all right. Failure 19, 3d12. Okay, bludgeoning damage, and the target has the prone condition. Success. This is quite... These are the three sentences to explain this. Success, half damage, and the target is pushed 5 feet straight away from the Boulette. Okay. This is odd. This is very, very odd. Okay, so this is something that I really want to work on here. It's got a bonus action. For those of you who are unaware, they have added bonus actions to monsters. The reason for this is because players have bonus actions, and they have even more bonus actions than they had before. So that creates a whole big problem, slows down the game. I think it's a stupid idea. As you know, if you've been on my channel, I think that Boulette is garbage. Not Boulette. Bonus actions are just nonsense and terrible. I can't stand them. I just recently, Mike Mills, who's the designer of the bonus action, and really he's not, because before that we had the minor action and swift actions and stuff like that in 3.5 and 4E, things like that. So it's not like it never existed before. It is just an attempt to give the players more to do, slowing down the game and just complicating the snot out of things. So we're getting rid of this nonsense. This doesn't need to be here. Get rid of this. The Boulette jumps up to 30 feet by spending 10 feet of movement. Now, once per round. I'm not saying turn, just because you're probably still using reactions, and I don't want you to do readied actions with this thing or anything like that. It doesn't need to be there. So we're going to take this and take it out of there and put it in as a trait, back to where it was. Essentially, it existed there before. Jumps up to 30 feet by spending 10 feet of movement once per round. So this is just a thing it can do. Is this going to work? I'm not completely convinced that it will. I'm not. I want to go back and have a look at the older version of the Boulette. So here's the legacy one. So standing leap. The Boulette's long jump is up to 30 feet and it is high as 15 feet, with or without a running start. So this is interesting. The problem with it never stated how much of your movement you used to do the jump, right? If you look at AD&D, it does actually talk about how far it can or can't jump. Like there's an aspect to it in the monster, and I'm going to read out that little section if I can find it with my poor eyes and these tiny print about how it goes about jumping, because it does actually state some information on this. So where are we? Tall, plate size. Okay. It's not stated in AD&D by the looks. Okay, so it might be in AD&D second edition, not first. It's probably there. Let's have a look here. So Boulette should have had this page ready to go. Alright, here we go. At least it wasn't that hard to find. This is alphabetized. Actually, not too hard to find. So here we go. Looking at our jump. So it talks about armor class, talks about damage. The land shark can jump up to 8 feet with blinding speed and does this to escape if cornered or injured. Okay, alright. While in the air, the bullet strikes with all 4 feet. So they've tried to duplicate the jumping deadly leap thing, okay, here from AD&D. Instead of making it 8 feet, they've made it like, you know, it's different. It's a little bit different. The landscape has 2 vulnerable areas, and it should list its height here. It doesn't have it here. I could have sworn I must have seen it in a different book. Anyway, so let's bring this back and just see where we need to go. So we're going to go with the long jump and not the high jump, since the high jump seems to be not a thing that traditionally was there. And we're going to go with, is it in 4E? It could be in 4E. Boule, 4E, jump, rising burst, flurry. It doesn't seem to have that here either. Okay, so that's fine. So let's just clean up what we got. So we've got to do some damage. This is highly confusing and rather long. I feel like we can still clean up the existing one though. The DCs for this will be no good anymore because it is a challenge rating 10 monster, and really at challenge rating 10 we should have a DC for our save of 17. So is 17 going to work? 17, so 7, so that's the proficiency bonus, which is a 4, and then 5 is 9, add 8, 17. Yep, that's the one. Okay, so that's the one we want. It'll be versus its strength, which is fine. Our damage, with an area of say 10 feet by 10 feet, you know, because that's the space of our monster, it's large, we're probably going to get 2 targets. So we need to ensure the damage output that we do on those 2 targets is sitting closer in line with 37, because we're doing, you know, over 70 points of damage each turn potentially with this monster. Right now this thing doesn't do very much. You're not going to get 3 characters, you might get 2. That would be about it. So this is really not the optimal choice. The optimal choice is to go with the bite, right? So this is not going to work. We're going to have to push this up. So the easiest way to do that, I think, is to go with a 6 on the 12, 6, and then we'll do some number crunching and see if we're in the right place. So 6.5, which is half of 12, multiply that by 6, equals 39. Okay, that's more like it. 39. So it's slightly better to do the leap and the jump, which is probably what you want to be doing anyway. But if it's not going to work out because you can't get 2 targets, you're going to go with the bite. I can see that as a reasonable trade-off. So we're going to go with that. Cool. That's that done. Alright, now, is there a way of structuring at least? The first sentence was alright, the second sentence is really kind of shite. Dexterity saving throw, DC 17 each creature. Well, they've kind of shortened it, and I kind of like this. This is what HowtoDandD does. HowtoDandD shortens everything so that it's still fairly clear. You know what the DC is. You know what the failure conditions are. Half damage. So it's still doing damage even if it doesn't succeed. Even if they succeed on the dexterity saving throw, it is still doing damage. Yeah. That's pretty solid, actually. I mean, now that I think about it, the way they've structured it, the way they've worded it, is still a bit wordy, but it's 5e, it's 2025, it's still wordy. It still does what it needs to do. It's got an effect whether it fails or succeeds. They are very distinct. It is not just you either fail and you take damage, or you succeed and you take no damage. Yeah, okay, all right, nice job, cool. Actually, that's actually really well written now that I think about it. So Wizard Coast did a pretty good job with that lineup. Could you shorten it? Yeah, but I don't know that would fit too well with 5e right now. Anyway, so that's the first one. We're going to do the pup in a second. But before I do the pup, let's go back to chat and see if people are confused. Here we go. No, we've either scared people off or they're not confused. Okay, all right, so let's do the pup, which, again, I feel the challenge rating for the pup is a problem. And so just as before, I think we need to rethink what's going on here. This is the pup. It is a challenge rating 2 monster. And it is hitting, its numbers are just not going to work. Okay? Now, there's a reason why I would not make a bulette pup, or bulette pup, challenge rating 2. 1. This stat block has divorced everything that makes the bulette a bulette. It is just a stat block now. It could be anything. It does a bit of a jump and that is it. It's kind of shite. I think the bulette pup being available for characters of level 2 is a bad idea. And I think this should really be a challenge rating 5 monster. Okay? So the bulette pup becomes the old bulette that we're aware of. And we forget about this nonsense. Because you've essentially taken out the deadly leap. Where's our deadly leap? It's gone. They've taken it away. And that is a foolish thing to do, because that is what makes the monster stand out. Yes, it is the pup. Why is a pup not able to do this? And yet the adult can. And if you have a pup like this, why do you even have to have a stat block for it? It's a boring monster. So no, this isn't going to do. We're going to change it. So let's go in here. And let's move a few things around just like we did before. I'm going to do the challenge rating, I'll do the proficiency. I'm going to probably just copy and paste this section here if I can get away with it. Did I do that? No. Go up. Here, this is what I want. Oops, I need to do that again. Let's just move this along. And then we'll go down and we'll cut this. Cut. Come on, Fred. Cut. Here we go. Cut, and challenge rating goes under. And paste. Whoops. We've made a bit of a mistake. Little bluey. Okay, that's better. Alright, so now we just take that. Get rid of all this nonsense here. Yellow. Okay, so this is no longer challenge rating 2. It is now challenge rating 5. Do I have, why do I feel like there's something missing here? Oh, it's the formatting. They've gone CR rather. The old one has gone. So it's now CR rather than challenge rating. Is that what they've gone and done, or challenge? Although they say the whole word. So challenge. I see what they're doing here. Okay, all right. I don't think that really matters. It's not that important. Challenge 10. Okay, so that's there, that's the bulette, and this is the pup. So challenge 5, get rid of this, and then we need to change the points for it because it'll be higher, of course. So 5 is now 1. 5 is 1. 800, 1800. So we're going to get rid of that. We don't need this anymore. Its initiative will be more in line here, I guess. Now, why am I doing this? You're probably wondering. And it goes back to its armor class. Its armor class is slightly lower than the adult version. And for me, I still think even the pup should have a pretty solid armor class. But I think its armor class is also too high. I don't want to push it up to a 16. Okay, it's too much. I actually think this should be a 15. We make it in line with what our challenge rating 5 monster would be. And do that. It's still a very high armor class for a monster. And its wisdom, now there was something about its wisdom that I was wondering about. And I don't know if I can't remember if I had adjusted this or not. I had decided that the wisdom of the pup is probably not as good as the adult. That's what it was. So we'll push this one up here and the adult, but essentially mechanically it'll be the same. Okay, alright. So the pup mechanically is only minorly, a minor difference to it. There's not a lot. Which makes sense because the pup's probably not quite as smart as the Boulette. That's adult. Alright, so dexterity. Now we've got no bonus to its initiative. It is going to be really easy to hit. And I don't think that's a good idea because its dexterity is lower. And I don't understand why we think that. Why is a pup less dexterous than the adult version? Because the adult version has got, you know, a 0 modifier, and apparently we need to drop this. If we were to drop anything, I would be the wisdom, in my opinion. So I'm just going to adjust the dexterity as well, because I don't think this is a good idea. So we're going to go here at 10, which will be a +0. Okay, and that's that. Okay, right, now what was the other paste? Now, proficiency bonus for a challenge rating 5 monster should be a 3. For those of you who are wondering, why would you not have a Boulette facing the player characters unless they are, you know, within about challenge rating 5? The reason being is that it's not to do with we want to duplicate the pup and a pup that you can easily dispose of because it's got no real interesting things going on. It's because, remember, Boulette are a monster that normally used to just eat halflings and magic items. Like that's what they were set up to do. Is like they come up and they digest magic items. If you look at the lore behind them, that is what they were. Does it have to stay that way? No, but I still think it is taking too much away from the monster and making it completely unrecognizable by ignoring those things. So you really don't want to be doing it unless your players have got magic items, and they're probably not going to get them to about level 5. This is the time that you want them to start showing up, from level 5 onward. So anyway, so this means this is going to be, I'm going to give it the proficiency bonus, which will be a +3, not a +4, and that means it's so I'm going to make it proficient in its initiative. It is not as good as the adult, and then that means it'll be a 13 for its initiative, which is much higher than the pup that they have created. This thing is never going to get it to do anything. It's going to be dead. So if it's going to be dead, you might as well either just don't bother having it, or make it so it's worth a fight. And this is why I'm doing this. Okay, next thing. Challenge rating 5. We need to do the hit points. Hit points probably are way too low. So we need to be hitting between 131 and 145. And I think you'll find that there's nowhere near the number of hit points that we need in here. So we need to actually push it up quite a bit. If at the top end, I think we can double the dice and it will be pretty close to where we need to be. I think it'll be pretty close. So let's do that. Let's make this a 12 instead of a 6. And then if we multiply our con modifier, I'm happy with the con modifier where it is. All the numbers on the juvenile version should be at least a little bit lower in some way. And I think what we can do is we can just take our 12, multiply that by 3, and we'll get our 36 for this. 36. Okay, and then if we add this all together, so we go 12 multiplied by 8, because medium size, we get 96, and then we add the 36, 132. Is that what we wanted? There we go, 100. It's just into the bracket now. So that's more like the number of hit points we need for this monster. 132. Excellent. 132. Okay, and now we just need to figure out the average, and then we'll know the bracket for hit points for this monster. You'll notice I'd use brackets rather than like Wizard of the Coast just gives you the average, because I don't think that's really helping you as a game master to determine whether, you know, I want you to adjust the hit points. You should be adjusting the hit points. It is a thing that you should be playing with, and I don't think they spell that out well enough. So this is why I do the bracket, the range for hit points. So 4.5 is half of 8. If I multiply that by 12, we get 54, add the 36, and we get 90. So that is our average, which is, it's double because its challenge rating's gone up, of course. And then we just go here, get rid of this. So again, for a Bulette pup, if you're using an experienced group, you will use 132 near that range for your hit points. If your group is very new and never played the game before, maybe use 90. Okay, and heck, you could go as lower than 90 if you really wanted to, but that's just the average. It's just to give you an idea. It's a ballpark thing. Okay, we've got this sorted out. Here's another problem. Players, if they're facing this now, are probably going to be level 5. At level 5, their best modifier is not a 16, it's probably an 18. And this thing is not keeping up with them at all. It's actually behind. I'm pushing that up to an 18. The adult has a 20, so it's stronger. It's a little bit faster. It's got better con. Its intelligence is about the same. Its wisdom is a little better. And its charisma is a little better, right? But a lot of the numbers are not hugely different. Here we go. So we'll do that. And then go here. And then I think we need to do the same, something very, very similar to perception and stealth, which is essentially we take our modifier, because over here the pup has just perception, not stealth, not athletics, nothing like that. And I think we need to add those things in. Otherwise, it's just not going to do what we need it to do. So I'm going to change that number in a second, but I'll just copy that, bring that down, just make it a bit faster. Paste, space. Right. Now, if we take its proficiency bonus, which is +3, and we make it proficient, which I think we should, and we add its strength modifier, it's going to be a 7. So instead of a 9, it gets a 7. So it's not quite as good. It's perception. It's got no wisdom modifier. Okay, so we're just going to go with proficiency and expertise on the proficiency bonus, so that'll be a 6. So that it's actually good at noticing things. And the same with stealth, exactly the same process. The modifier for dexterity is a 0, so it's now a 6. And you'll notice that its perception and its stealth, the pup, is still better than the adult. The adult is better at these things. So we have actually made some sort of distinction between them. Okay, go here. The frightened condition. Again, like its parent, I don't think they get frightened. I think you're wasting your time with that. It has got not quite as long a dark vision, which is 30 feet. I'm fine with that. And tremor sense, 60 feet. I'm actually fine with that too. Its passive perception will now be a 16. It's got no languages. And we need to port down this leap. Now the leap is too much. we take in the concept of a leap, but we're dropping it down to a pup level, because the pup is not as big, right? So the boulette jumps up to 30 feet by spending 10 feet of movement once per round. So let's take this. Now, was I doing this the right way? Yep. Okay, so copy, come down. Now you might have noticed I've set it up so that this monster can't jump indefinitely forever. Like, it's not going to do that. So we're going to halve this to 15. We're going to go to 5 feet instead of 10 feet. Hang on, a bullet jumps up to 15 feet by spending, not 5, 10 feet. It moves slower than the adults, so its burrowing speed, I believe its speed and its burrowing speed are less by about 10 feet. No, this burrowing speed is even lower. So 30, and then they've gone. So why have they gone 40, 40, and yet they've differentiated the pup? That's kind of strange. Why would you do that? It's gone 40, 40 here, and yet the pup is 30, 20. I would have thought it would be just 30, 30. Is the pup not as good as digging as the adult? Is that what they're trying to do here? I think that's what they're trying to duplicate. Okay, I'll give it that. I'll give you that. That's fine. All right. It is very odd to do something like this. It's really, really strange. I'm going to have to think a little bit more about this. If people have something to say, then let me know. Okay, so tremor sense, dark vision, passive perception, all good. Our jump up to 15 feet by spending 10 feet of movement once per round. And I guess the idea being is jumps up to 15 feet by spending 10 feet of movement once per round. Yeah, I just don't want them jumping, using all their movement to suddenly do this humongous jump, which is what we're trying to avoid. So this jump here is really just to use up movement. The leaping thing before is an action, so we do still need to have it. Okay, all right. I'm just thinking out loud here. All right, so that's that. We're getting rid of the bonus action. We don't need them. We have, this is working perfectly fine the way it is. That's all right too. And now we need to go over and deal with the maths of this monster. So it should probably have a +7 for a challenge rating 5 monster. Yes, +7. And it's got a 5, so we're adjusting this. And then we're going to do the damage. And I think it's still supposed to have 2 attacks though, if I remember right. Yeah, 2 attacks and should be doing this much damage. So it should still have multi-attack. So we're going to do that. We're going to include our multi-attack. So our monster has multi-attack. So copy, go down. Paste. And okay, 2 bite attacks, that's fine. We've got our bites. We're going to figure out our damage. Our damage is still probably not quite enough. If I remember right, it still needs to be, that's right, we have to add in the strength modifier. It's now there. That's a 14, it's a 4. And that'll make that a, is it a 15? Just check my numbers. Because I know they had to do an errata because they made some mistakes of monsters and they had to do an errata on the first day of all things. 5.5 multiplied by 2. That's 11, that's fine. Then we add 4, 15. Okay. 15 is still a little bit under though, isn't it? It is. We probably need to be hitting a little bit harder. Let's push the dice up by 1 and see if that's going to be a problem. Will it? It might actually be too much. 21. It might be at the tail and top end of it. Let's see though. Let's do it. Let's do the maths and see what we get. So if we go 5.5, which is the average of 10, multiplied by 3, add 4. Oops, I added 5. Sorry, do it again. So 5.5 multiplied by 3. Okay. Do it again. 5.5 here multiplied by 3. We'll get it eventually. Add 4 is 20. That's all right. That's fine. Good. All right. So we're doing the damage we need to be doing per round, since that's in line with what a challenge rating 5 monster should be doing, is between 17 and 21, and we are in that bracket, so that's good. So we're doing the amount of damage we want. We still need to actually make it a boulette, because right now it's got the leaping effect. That's fine. The bite really doesn't distinguish it that much at all. So now we definitely got to look at porting over the deadly leap, but we've got to tone it all down, okay? Otherwise it's not going to work. So let's go here, copy, port it down, and actually give it a feature that makes sense. Otherwise it's not a boulette. Pup spends 5 feet of movement. Now I'm fine with it just being 5 feet of movement, but we're going to change its jump space 10 feet instead of 15. It has got to be medium or small. Contains one or more. It contains one medium or small creature. Dexterity save is going to be too high, so we need to adjust this. So if we go up to our maths, 5 challenge rating should be a 15. So how do we calculate that? That is based off 4 plus the 3 proficiency bonus now that we have, which is 7. Add that to 8, it's 15. So that sounds right. That's correct. 15. And then where damage is way too high. And so what we will do is we're going to tone that all down a little bit, because it's just a bit much. So we'll go down to a 10. And you're only hitting one target because you're not as big. So this is probably part of the problem with doing this, is that now we're looking at a situation where actually, now that I think about it, it probably has to do the same amount of damage, doesn't it? This is one of those weird things where you have a feature or an ability, and to make the younger version of an older monster work, it runs into a whole lot of problems in terms of the space that it affects because of the size of the creature. Well, I haven't come across this problem before. It's definitely a legitimate problem though. Can we just leave the damage that it does the same? Because the problem is, if you do add in Deadly Leap and you make it less damage, why would you use it over using the bite attack, where you would be doing 40 points of damage if they both hit? The choice would be never to use the Deadly Leap, just because you can only affect so many creatures. Is there a circumstance where it would be of an advantage? Not really. The thing moves fast enough as it is. I think we have to leave the damage the same. I don't like doing this, but I think we do. I think we honestly have to leave the Deadly Leap damage the same and change the DC. Just because of the It's a weird one, isn't it? It's really, really strange how it's sort of, you change the space of the monster, it changes the area that it affects significantly. This is one of those times where I'm going to have a really hard think about it. I'm going to grab some water because I'm getting dry. We can't drop it down because you'd never bother using it then, right? There isn't any real good reason to use it. If we leave it the same, it feels wrong because the adult is doing the same sort of damage. But we can't go up because it would be doing too much damage. I wonder if this is why the design team left the Deadly Leap out. It could be. They may have left it out because the Deadly Leap was going to look weird if the adult did the same as the... Well, they had a different challenge rating. That wouldn't necessarily have been the same problem exactly. But if the problems occurred here, it's going to occur even if you go back to the original challenge ratings of 5 and 2. I reckon that is the reason why they left it out. I honestly think that's probably why. Yeah. So we make it less of a boulette. I keep saying boulette and boulette and swapping in back and forth between the two. Who gives a shit anyway? I think this is probably why they've done that. It never even occurred to me because the space that it affects is the problem, isn't it? Oh my gosh. And it makes sense to do it this way too. So when you wind up with the maths just not working, just delete it from the stat block. That was the solution. Sorry, you haven't been able to see all of this. You've had my face come. So I apologise, people. So I'm making all these changes to the boulette pup, and you can't see what I've done. So I changed a lot. Like this is the original boulette pup. Okay, armor class 16. I made it a 15. Okay, because I think it needs to be challenge rating 5. Look, you could make it a 16. Going up 1 point or down 1 point from your challenge rating is really not a big deal. But I actually think it is perfectly fine to leave it at a 15. Or we could just make it a 16 and we'd be alright too. It's too high for a challenge rating 2, but for 5, 16 would still be close enough to where it needed to be. Yeah, okay, we'll do that. Yeah, so I bumped up its strength. I've adjusted the hit points. I really apologise, everybody. I had thought that on my screen had been changed over, and I obviously didn't click over to it. This is the problem when it gets hot. My brain just turned into a mess. So I've made some adjustments to initiative, challenge rating, proficiency bonus. I've left the speed, changed the hit points, changed the armor class, changed the strength, made slight adjustments to the dexterity. Okay. I've given it athletics, changed the perception, added in stealth, given it a condition immunity of frightened. I've left dark vision, tremor sense the same. Passive perception's changed, of course. And then instead of a bonus action, we just use this as part of our movement. Once per round, we can do a bit of a jump. And I think that's fine. Yeah, it's fine. Actually, we might go 10 feet. Let's go 20. 15, 20. Let's give it a little bit of an advantage. Yeah, that's better. Okay. And I've given it 2 bites because it's not going to do enough damage. If it's challenge rating 2, it needs to have 2 attacks. And this is where we got stuck. This is where I find myself with Deadly Leap being the same, except for the DC, as the adult version. I'm just thinking whether it really matters. This is a hard one. I really do. This is a hard one. I can really see why the design team probably got here, realized when they were doing all of the adjustments, making the pup and having the adult, and they decided just to delete the Deadly Elite because it just made suddenly the pup seem just as dangerous as the adult. Is that really what we're looking at? Well, let's think about this again. If you're a pup and you're medium size and you can only land in a square that's 5 foot by 5 foot, you can only hit one target, so you can only really do about 39 points of damage. That'd be about the best you can pull off. Okay. But if you're an adult and you jump and leap, you can hit 2 targets, which means you can do about 80 points of damage. Close to. Close to 80. It's actually not a problem because actually the Deadly Leap, even though mathematically and mechanically it looks so similar apart from the DC, you're probably going to hit 2 targets and you're going to do 80 points of damage, or close to 78 points of damage, which is twice as much as the younger version with its jump. It's alright, it's fine, and it still means the Deadly Leap still has a potential use that you might want to consider because it's still in line with the multi-attack. I saw a problem where none existed. Why did I get stuck on this? Probably not enough water. Too much heat. Yeah. Okay. I think we've nailed this down. I want to go over this monster a little bit more and just check out all the older versions of the game to make sure that I've got this right. So there'll be 2 versions of this, the pup and the adult. Okay. Really sorry about that, people. I did not expect that I completely forgot to make sure I shifted over to the screen. I'm talking the whole time, doing maths, and you don't know what the hell I'm talking about. What an egg, eh? Anyway, Vox, can we see the changes you're making? Vox, I'm really sorry. So I'm really, really sorry. I forgot to shift over. So if I haven't shown you enough of the changes and explained enough of it, please let me know, Vox, and I'll go through that process. I'm not sure what the Bulette Pup AC is currently. Yeah, the Bulette Pup AC is currently 16 in the new monster manual. Okay, it is currently 16. We've left it there because it could be a 15 or a 16. I honestly don't think it really matters. But I considered upping the dex significantly since it would have less mass and therefore quicker and easier to move her through the earth. I don't think it really matters. I want you to think about it this way, Vox. Is the fact that a baby deer is smaller and lighter mean that it is faster than the adult? No, it's not. And in fact, quite often they're about the same speed, even though one has got longer legs. The adult's usually going to get there faster because it's got longer legs. It doesn't mean that it's any quicker though. They're built the same, so they're kind of in the same ballpark. But you could do that if you really wanted to. I don't think it really matters that much. Hello, Negative Space. I've always found it weird that it can only do its jump attack when it jumped out of the ground. I think it should be able to do that all the time, but have sneak attack if doing it from out of the ground. Okay. Would a rework as a pounce be appropriate, looking at the Panther stat block? Okay, that's a good idea. Let's have a look at Panther. I'll certainly consider it, Vox. That's not a bad idea. Or maybe put the jump attack on the recharge. I don't think the jump attack should be on a recharge. I reckon you make it available. There are certain times when it will come up and be worthwhile using. The jump comes up right, for an adult when they cluster. The player characters cluster. If they don't cluster, you won't bother using it. Yep. For the young one, it's probably the go-to tool. It's probably the most sensible thing to do. Hello, JP. Jean-Paul is my buddy, one of my friends in my home group. Currently playing HowtoDandD as it happens. How's it going, JP? 4E fixed this problem with the earth furrowing ability, whereby it was able to attack all creatures as it burrowed underneath. Did they? Okay, I'm just looking now, JP. Maybe the pup could only jump up and attack a creature's ankles, and the target has to make a check or fall prone. Okay, I get it. Rising Burst was another great ambush technique that personified the Boulette. Attack multiple players with this feature. I think the burrowing under the creatures and damaging creatures is going under. Right, okay. I don't know why it does either, mate. That's the nature of phones. Okay, let's have a look at what JP's looking at. Because maybe this is the solution. Earth furrow. Oh, it's a really complicated section. Here we go. The Boulette moves up to its burrow speed just below the surface of the ground, avoiding opportunity attacks as it passes underneath other creatures' squares. As it burrows beneath the space of a medium or small creature on the ground, the Boulette makes an attack against the creature. Okay. I don't think it's necessary. I don't know that we need to do that. Yeah. Is there really a problem there? Are we seeing a problem that doesn't exist? HowtoDandD next. Boulette. What does she say? The standout thing that she's done here is jump up to near, which is 30 feet, in height, and double near in distance, and make 2 bite attacks. And really, our jump attack is essentially like our bite attack. It's so what has she done here? She's given it, you get 3 bite attacks at +5. Or you get 1 leap attack and get two bites. I'm not sure that I am sold on this. I would prefer to have 3 attacks rather than 2 attacks. Even if I get to jump. I don't think that's a good indication of our Boulette. Let's have a look at older versions to make sure I've got this sorted. Okay, combat. The Boulette will attack anything it regards as edible. The only thing that it refuses to eat is elves. You're safe, JP, since JP only plays elves, and it dislikes dwarves. It doesn't like the taste of them, probably because they're in the, I don't know. The Boulette is always hungry and constantly roams its territory in search of food. When burrowing underground, the land shark relies on vibrations to detect prey. Okay, when it senses something edible, senses movement, the Boulette breaks to the surface crescent first and begins its attack. The land shark has a temperament akin to the wolverine. Stupid, mean, and fearless. Haha! There we go. The size, strength, and numbers of these opponents mean nothing, so they don't care about any of that. It says primarily it's a solitary creature, but there is ecology stuff here. The Boulette always attacks choosing as its target the easiest or closest prey. When attacking, the Boulette employs its large jaws and front feet. So it does use its claws as well, not just its jaw. The Boulette can jump up to 8 feet with blinding speed, and does this to escape if cornered or injured while in the air. So we've got a feature that allows you to use it to escape while in the air. The Boulette strikes with all 4 feet, causing 3d6 points of damage for each of the rear feet as well. Okay. Landshark has 2 vulnerable areas, so this is done. We're not going to have cooled shots on this, so just forget about that. Okay, so I think we've done what we need there. And I think there is another feature we need to consider putting in here as a trait. It just occurred to me. It wouldn't affect me, because if I had my choice, I'd get rid of opportunity attacks because I think they're stupid. But it has occurred to me that there's something else we could do here. Now, the original Boulette, this is AD&D first edition. The first one. Let's have a look and see what this says. The Boulette or Landshark were thought to be extinct until recently, when this horror reappeared. It was a result of a mad wizard's experiment, like they all are, of course, crossbreeding of a snapping turtle and an armadillo, with the infusion of demon's ichor. All right. They range temperate climate, feeding on horses, men, and most other flesh, although they dislike dwarf and shun elf of any sort. They love halflings, so that means they like to eat kiwis. I'm only kidding. Or they like to eat AJ Pickett in particular, and will hungrily dig them for their burrows. The stupid Boulette is irresistible and always hungry, and they fear nothing. They fear nothing. Yes, okay. Oh, that's why you love the Boulette, because it won't eat your character. Nice. But they will attack large, powerful party. Just eat a horse or 2. Sometimes the crest of a burrowing landshark will break the ground. Thus the name landshark. When fighting, they usually employ their front feet and gaping maw. But then cornered or seriously wounded, they can jump up to 8 feet. Striking with both feet. We've got this. I think there is a problem that I haven't considered that I should have put forward. And it's just because of the opportunity attack. Is solitary. Only a mated pair will share the same territory. So you could have 2. This is what I was talking about. No young have ever been seen. In other words, this is very early days. Time has passed. Smaller species have been seen and killed. No one can discern how or where the young are born. Or yes. There's been a lot more written on this in the past. Okay, so there's something I think I need to consider putting in here to help. So I'm going to share my screen so you can see what I'm doing this time. But I do remember a conversation with some players, and I think this is maybe why you guys were talking about trying to solve the problem, and that is when your Boulette or Boulette pup is jumping or digging, we don't want the players to be able to have an opportunity attack, because it would not be practical to be able to attack something that is just below the ground with your weapon. And yet players will argue that point, but it is 5 feet. I can stab through the ground. I do remember a couple of people mentioning this, at least one. I don't know that that's necessarily a good reason to change the mechanics of a monster to contend with somebody's ridiculous notions in their brain. But this may be one thing that we could do. But there's the jump too, because if you jump right, your players are going to say, well, I get to attack them. And if you want to jump away with it, which is what one of those features is supposed to do, you will still get attacked. Cunning. I don't know. Do we call it cunning? I'm doing it now. Here we go. Cunning. The Boulette does not provoke opportunity attacks when burrowing or leaping. If I go back to the original one, because it looks very different to the current one, right? There's some mechanics that they have left out, which are probably there to stop it being a problem. But anyway, here we go. So the long time 3 feet without a running start. So essentially, okay. Movement. 5 feet. Okay, so there's a lot going on here. It doesn't have that, but I think we're going to include it. I think we're going to include it as one of its traits, and we'll just port this down to the pup as well. I think that's what you were talking about. Like somebody was talking about, you know, the fact that if it's digging under the ground, people are going to still want to attack it, which it really doesn't make any sense that they would be able to achieve that. And it's jumping away from you, so I get to attack it because it's moved away, right? And yeah, so let's just cut that down now. Pup. So they're more in line, I think, with where we needed to be. Okay. All right. I don't know. What do you guys think? Good idea? Bad idea? I think that's probably doing what it needs to do. So yeah, I'm reasonably happy with that. I'm going to end this poll. It is time for me to wrap it up. So this is done. I just need to turn it into a document and put it onto Patreon, and that's where it will go, for those of you who are interested. Do you think the Boule stat block for Dungeons & Dragons 5e or 2025 needs fixing? Yes, 38%. Just watching, 38%. Undecided, 23%. No. So, undecided, not really weighing in, or yes. I generally feel like the Boule, like a lot of monsters, are in 2025 and back in 2014, they were set at ratings or challenge ratings that were too low for them. Like my name is in here as the one of the playtesters. If you look in here, you'll find Frederick Wheeler. I'm near the bottom. I'm like the second to last person, just before Arthur Wright in here. And I can assure you that I spent the last 10 years. I play tested the stuff in the beta and the alpha, and I've been trying out all these monsters for the since 2014. And there's some problems. There's some things that needed to be sorted out, and I think that will probably do most of the work that you need. Anyway, we're done. I gotta go. You gotta go. We're gonna get on with our days. There are other things to do. Can't all be about D&D. What is happening tomorrow? Tomorrow I'll be showing up and we'll be making magic armor. You guys, I know, have been hanging out for magic weapons and magic armor. We're not doing weapons, but we are doing armor. See how that goes. Anyway, I'm going to get out of here. So thank you for watching and listening. I do apologize for forgetting to show you the screen I was working on because I was jumping back and forth. A huge thank you to everybody who took part in the poll. Thank you to all my patrons who support me on Patreon, because without them I really can't do this. It becomes too expensive over time. Vox, interesting stuff. Thank you so much. Thank you for weighing in. And yeah, again, the problem is my brain is working and it's so hot, and I just forget sometimes that the screen's not up that you need to see. Yeah, so sorry about that, Vox. Jean-Paul, Negative Space, thank you for being here and weighing in. Fred Huber, and we had Big Kid here as well, and we also had Tommy. And it was definitely in Late Typer also. Thank you for your feedback. Anyway, wherever you are in the world, whether it be the morning, the afternoon, or the night, please look after yourself, your family, and your friends. Be nice to your neighbours, and we'll be back next week to do another monster. And until next time, keep rolling those 20s.